Hey listeners, welcome to the Natural Birth Talk. Today we are hearing from Ammie Harris again. This time she is talking about her accidental unassisted home birth and some important tips she has for mamas out there. Before I give you your sneak peek, guys, make sure you check the description below for our natural birth education course and for our helpful products guide. But that's enough chatting. Here's your sneak peek, so stick around.
And my midwife was like, well, I'll just turn around and just head back that way. If something changes, I can always go back home. I think she knew what was happening.
Yeah.
And she was just not trying to make us any more nervous because she knew she wasn't going to make the birth probably at that point.
Right.
So anyways, as soon as he hung up the phone with her and she was like, I'm going to head back. I'll just take my time and y'all let me know if something changes. My water just explodes.
Hi, I'm Rachel Manns, owner of the Natural Birth site and this podcast, the Natural Birth Talk. Here, you'll learn all about different natural aspects of birth, pregnancy, and postpartum. Remember, none of this information should take the place of a care provider and is not medical advice. Birth is not a medical emergency. Thanks for listening. Hey everyone, welcome to the Natural Birth Talk. Today I am here with Ammie Harris, and she was with us once before. She gave us tips on how to have a natural birth with an induction in the hospital, so you should definitely check out that episode. But this episode is all about her birth with her third baby, which ended up being accidentally an unassisted home birth. So I'm super excited to talk about it, but I'm going to let Ammie introduce herself before we get started.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm Ammie. I'm a mom of 3 now, as she just mentioned. We just had our third just 10 weeks ago. I came home about a year ago to be a full-time stay-at-home mom with my 3 kids. Well, 2 kids in, now 3. But I also have a YouTube channel on the side where I share lots of motherhood tips, birth tips. I share all about birth, all about pregnancy, and just our life in general here on our little homestead here in Mississippi. So thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, me too. So I love Ammie's channel. You should definitely pop over there and check it out. She just has so many good postpartum tips right now with being postpartum. So
thank you.
Definitely head over there. I've got the link in the description below, but kind of, Ammie reached out to me, several months ago.
Yeah.
Earlier 2022. Yeah, I don't know.
6 or 8 months ago, probably.
Yeah.
I was just halfway through my pregnancy.
Yeah. And we've kind of been able to become online friends, I guess.
Yes.
Anyway, so I really want to tell everybody about your accidental unassisted home birth, because I think that this could happen to anyone.
It could, yes. I never thought it would happen to me.
Yeah, it's not super common. It happened to me too. And we have a lot of similarities in our story, which is just so funny to me. And I've had a few clients have accidental home births too.
Wow. Okay.
So it's just a topic that I think everybody should know about. You should definitely know the basics, what might happen. And it's just a good story to hear.
Thanks.
So if you just want to go ahead and get started and wherever you want to start from.
Okay. This was my second home birth, third child. So my first home birth, it started very, very similar to that one. So I woke up to a very mild contraction, except this time it was 5 a.m. and the last time it was at midnight. So I was really excited because it was early in the morning. I had had a full night's sleep. My husband had had a full night's sleep. We weren't going to be tired and exhausted.
Right.
As our first birth, we were very tired and exhausted. So we knew that feeling, and we didn't want that with this birth. So we had prayed for a daytime birth. So I was so excited for that. I let him know everything, woke him up, and he decided he would head on to work because we knew I was only in early labor. Nothing was going to progress that quickly, we didn't think. So,
right.
Anyways, my kids got up, and contractions at that point were very manageable. Before my kids got up, I had put on some birth podcasts and started listening and getting my mind in the mood of birth and just reminding myself that my body can do this. I'm very big on listening to birth podcasts and making sure you're preparing your mental self for
Absolutely.
the birth, not only your physical body, but you always want to prepare yourself mentally. And just
Absolutely,
there's so much in our culture that downplays, scares you into birth, but there's so many positive stories that if women will listen and prepare themselves mentally, it makes birth so much easier, I think. I mean, just preparing yourself mentally is a big thing.
Huge.
It really is.
It's so huge. It's one of the biggest focuses in my natural birth education course. So guys, if you want to learn how to prepare yourself mentally, you could check that out in the description below too.
So I listened to that, and then the kids got up and we just started our day as usual. It was just a normal Monday, actually. It was a Monday morning. And nothing really was changing. Like I was like, well, I'm having these contractions. I'm feeling them. I know they're real contractions, but nothing was getting closer. They weren't getting any more intense. I was just kind of sitting on my birth ball, playing with the kids. We were talking about the new baby. We didn't know her gender at that point. So my son was still betting on a boy, and he was so excited
Yeah.
that his brother was going to be arriving that day. He just was set on it was a boy.
So
So,
I'm going to pause you only because I just finished uploading your birth video to the Natural Birth Show on YouTube.
uh-huh.
And it's scheduled to release. Well, I guess it would be released by the time I release this episode. And you guys should check that out in the description below too. But in the very beginning of that video, your son says, God, please let this be a boy.
Yes, he did. He did. He
It's
was
so cute.
so set on the boy. And if you watch the video, you'll see his real and raw reaction of it not being a boy,
Yes.
because we did have a girl. So, anyways, he was really excited, and we just enjoyed our day. It was just a really sweet day. Like I'll remember that day for forever with my kids because it was
Yeah.
just so sweet talking about the arrival of their sibling that day. So by lunch, I mean, I had talked to my midwife and told her updates, and she was like, let me know this, let me know this. She was she lives right at 2 hours from us. So we had a good drive for
Mm-hmm.
her to get here, and I didn't want her to miss the birth. So around noon, I told my husband to come on home. I mean, it wasn't anything, nothing was picking up, but he didn't want anything to pick up quickly because when my second home birth, things did
Mm-hmm.
pick up really quickly. Like my midwife was only there for 20 minutes at that previous home birth.
Yeah.
So we didn't want that to happen again. And we definitely wanted my husband here to get the birth pool set up and filled. And I just felt like in my mind, things were going to pick up, although my body didn't feel like anything was picking up just yet.
Uh-huh.
So this was about noon.
Just like your
Um,
instinct was
yes,
there.
my instinct was like, we're going to have a baby this afternoon. Like the kids are going to be awake. The midwife's going to be here. The birth pool's going to be ready. It's going to all happen this afternoon.
Uh-huh.
So anyways, my husband got home. We started doing some things outside, or the kids went down for nap. We started doing some things outside, and he was like, "Are you sure you're really in labor? Like you're walking around the yard helping me and doing all
Uh-huh.
this." And I would just stop and pause through contractions. At this point, they were probably about 15, 10 to 15, not really regularly,
Mm-hmm.
15 to 15 or so, but nothing intense yet still.
Yeah.
Like I could just stop, pause, stand there and just breathe. I didn't have to
Like,
like bend over or like really focus.
yeah. And those 10 to 15 minute apart contractions, those can last for days. Those can
Yes.
start and stop. You just
Yes.
never know. But you knew in your body, trusting your instincts, like
So we were going to
something
have a
was going to
baby
happen.
that day. Like it never even crossed my mind that we would be having a baby 2 or 3 days from then, thankfully,
Yeah.
because I know if that had gone through my mind, I probably would have had like a mental block. I don't even know. But
Right.
anyways, that afternoon we were just enjoying the afternoon together. And then I think it was about 3 o'clock. I was like, okay, this is about to just change drastically. And my midwife
Mm-hmm.
needs to get here.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
I still didn't feel anything that much different. I think they had probably went to about 10 minutes apart. Like things were progressing, but they were so slow. I was
Mm-hmm.
just like, any minute now, everything's going to change any minute because everything had just been so slow from there. And remembering my last birth, I was like, hers changed really quickly, that birth. So this one's going to change really quick. So at 3, I told the midwife to come. She was 2 hours from us. So she
Oh
arrived about
man.
5 and got here and visited with us for 5 or 10 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I had one contraction the entire time she was here, which was
Yeah.
crazy because she ended up being here about 45 minutes. But she said that happens a lot. Like
Mm-hmm.
when the provider gets there, your body kind of just stalls. I mean, it
Even
does.
as a doula,
Yeah.
when I get to a birth, even at someone's home, it almost always stalls at least
Yeah.
for 30 minutes or something. There's always a change just because
Yeah.
there's just that change in the atmosphere. And so the body just
Exactly.
takes a pause. It's
Yeah.
smart.
It really is. Like it knows what it needs. It knows it needs a break. It knows it needs privacy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that I think played into this that I'll mention in a minute, but I didn't want any checks. Like I was pretty
Mm-hmm.
against it. I didn't want any interventions at all. But at that point, we didn't like nothing was changing. So
Right.
she agreed that we probably should do a check. So she checked me and I was
Mm-hmm.
only 2 centimeters.
Ah,
What
the worst.
a slap in the face. Like I'd
Yeah.
and been in labor for now 12 hours from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. when she checked me. And like my heart just sank. Like my
Of
husband
course.
could
Yeah.
see it on my face and he knew
That's
I
the
was,
struggle with checks. Like with
yes,
cervical checks, one of the struggles is that like it can set you back. And
it
I
can, yeah.
always really like to say that your cervix is not a crystal ball and it does not tell you when you're going to give birth. And
exactly.
your story is the perfect example of that. So,
I did not want to be checked. Like I had told her the whole time. In my previous home birth, I didn't have any checks. My first hospital birth, there were lots. So I knew
mhm,
that it was a big mind game in the hospital with the cervical check. So I really didn't want any, but I knew it was kind of, we needed to know something because
right.
she was 2 hours. We were nearing the end of the day. I needed to try to get some sleep if I wasn't about to have the baby. So, anyways, she checked me. We agreed that she would head on back home. And she was like, well, you're only 2 centimeters. I don't think you're in prodromal labor. Things are
Uh-huh.
changing, but I don't think you're going to have a baby that quickly. Like it could be midnight or the next morning.
Well, and
So
what's funny is that like that information made you second guess your instincts.
it did.
Which is
when,
where it's like, it's so huge for me in my doula practice and in my childbirth ed practice to just remind moms to check their instincts and trust their instincts because every birth and every body is different. And it sounds like you're kind of like me, where you may go from, 3 or 4 centimeters to having a baby in just a
yeah,
couple of hours. Like
yes.
I've done that several times and you've done that twice now too.
Yes. Well, my first one wasn't this quick. It was probably about 5 or 6 hours, the
But
progression,
still,
but
yeah.
this one was a lot quicker as we'll get to. But yes, it's crazy how your body can change. And like the midwife was like, yeah, you probably have 5, 6, 8 more hours, maybe even a couple
Hmm.
of days. But I didn't. So anyways,
Yep.
she left. My husband and I warmed up some dinner. Like we pulled out one of the postpartum meals because I was
Hmm.
not about to cook dinner at that point.
Of course
So
not.
after that day and after that mental block that I had just had, so we were sitting at dinner and I remember telling him, now since you sent the midwife home, we're going to have a free birth. And he was like, well, I hope not, Amy, but if we do, God will be in control. We'll get through it. We'll handle it. So
Uh-huh.
anyways, we ate dinner. We had a good laugh over that. I was still having contractions just every maybe 5 to 8 minutes at this point.
Hmm.
Still very, very, very mild though. Like I wasn't in like the zone yet of having to really focus on those contractions. So after dinner, he put the kids to bed and I went ahead and got a long bath. Or I thought it was going to be a long bath. The
Right.
midwife told me to take a long, relaxing bath with some salts and whatever I wanted to do to relax myself. So I got in the bathtub. He was putting the kids to bed. I could hear all this. I put on another birth podcast to listen to and just started trying to just reset my mind because I was
Hmm.
really, really down at that point.
I'm
But
sure.
about yes, just knowing that I was only 2 centimeters and now my kids were going to bed and I had really wanted at least my oldest to be at the birth because he was wanting
Hmm.
to announce the gender. So I guess I was just really sad that now he may not even get to be there. So about 2 minutes into that podcast, things started changing. We don't have like a nice luxury tub. I was in a tiny little tub and everything got so
Hmm.
uncomfortable. I couldn't sit still. Contractions just like hit me like so hard.
Oh
They
no.
they went from that 5 to 8 minutes apart at dinner to like 1 to 2 minutes apart within like that short bath. I wasn't
Yeah.
in there long at all.
Something
And
about that bath, just the
it did
relaxation or the position you were in
possibly,
is
and
something, or your mental state changed.
mental, yeah. I think looking back, it may have been my kids were in bed and I knew like I wanted my kids to be there, but I think I was also had in the back of my mind, what if my mom couldn't be here to watch them? My husband had to do it. Like, I think there was a lot of
Hmm.
mental stuff going on. And when they went to bed, it was like my body finally relaxed. I thought
Yeah.
I wanted them there at the birth, but maybe my body knew I really didn't need to have them there. Just with like them being so young and needing
Yeah.
childcare. My mom was another 2 hours from us. So it was like all these keys that had to come together to make this perfect birth that I had
Yeah.
planned for, this perfect water birth with my family all around and everything. So
I
anyway,
understand. I understand that so much because I had the same plan with mine. I was
uh-huh,
like, I had the tub blown up and I was like,
yes.
okay, we're just going to fill it and I'm going to have candles. And my
Uh-huh.
then 6 year old was like, I'm going to swim with you. And,
My
and I was
toddler
like,
had
all my family's going to be here if they want to be here. And then
exactly.
my body was like, nope,
No,
nobody's making it.
that's not the plan. My toddler had also wanted to be in the pool and
Yeah.
swim. Like he had seen us blow up the pool that day, but had not seen us fill it. But he was so excited. But I think our
Yeah.
bodies know what we need for that birth. And maybe the next birth that we have another one will be different. So, anyways, he was in bed. So I got out of the tub, came downstairs. My husband was just doing some things around the house. He was like, "Are you all
Mhm.
right?"
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Ross, the host of Smells Like Humans, a show about interesting and quirky human behavior. We bring humor, empathy, and warmth to topics such as relationships, dating, work, self-compassion, weddings, phobias, aging parents, travel mishaps, death, and many more. Ever wonder what happens at a cuddle party? We talk about it. Free-range kids in restaurants? We've got some thoughts. Bedtime stories for adults? We're on it. Light, fun, unscripted conversation and personal stories. Please join us by clicking the link in the show notes.
And at this point, I was like, no, I have to get in the bed. And I immediately got in that bed and started shaking. And that's my sign for transition. And he knew that. And he was like, are you cold? And I think he was kind of in shock because he had just seen me go up to the bathtub like perfectly fine. And now I come downstairs and get in our bed and like, I'm a totally different person. He was like, do I need to call the midwife? Do we need to call her? I was like, no, she just left. Let's just see if something like it had been now probably just an hour that she had left. I was like, let's just see what happens. I'm still not comprehending that I'm in transition. I don't think it had hit me yet because I just was like,
because you've already been told it's going to be 5 hours at this point, so it's in your head.
Exactly. And he was like, well, you were just 2 centimeters. You shouldn't be about to have a baby yet. So I'll call her and update her, but I'm not going to tell her to come back. So I went through transition in my bed, laying there. He watched me. And at that moment, he was on the phone with her watching me like tremble. And he was like, I think she's starting to shake. And I think that may be her sign. And my midwife was like, well, I'll just turn around and just head that way. If something changes, I can always go back home. I think she knew what was happening.
Yeah.
And she was just not trying to make us any more nervous because she knew she wasn't going to make the birth probably at that point.
Right.
So anyways, as soon as he hung up the phone with her and she was like, I'm going to head back. I'll just take my time and y'all let me know if something changes. My water just explodes. It's like I've never experienced it like that. Actually, in the past, they just kind of trickled. This was the like elaborate TV one where
Niagara Falls.
Exactly. And that doesn't usually happen, by the way. I mean, I don't know if that's ever happened to you that way, but most women I talk to, that doesn't happen that way.
Mine pop. Yeah. Mine have
you heard the pop? Wow.
Yes. And I could feel the pop.
Wow. See, that was totally new for me. It totally caught me off guard. And my husband too, because he had never seen that. We thought that was just like very rare and in the movies, like where they upplay birth so much. But anyways, it popped and he was like, okay, I'm calling her. And immediately contractions were just like boom, boom, boom when that water breaks. So he called her and was like, yeah, hurry back. And she kind of gave him some information. Just, we had taken a class with her in case this happened. She does like a class for her clients and make sure they know what to do if she doesn't make the birth. So she kind of refreshed his memory. So that was very calming. And it was very calming to hear her. Cause at that point I realized we were probably not going to have her at our birth.
Right.
And I knew that my body was capable and I knew that I was going to be perfectly fine. My only worry was the baby. If the baby needed some form of help that we personally didn't know what to do. And of course we'd have her on the phone, but that was my only concern. So she just eased all our fears. And I think as soon as that worry came into my head, God eased all my fears too. And my husband's calmness. I mean, there were parts, if you watch our video, he got a little bit like nervous, but for the most part, he stayed so calm, and that helped me stay calm. And I think that was just God looking over us and helping us put peace in that birth because he knew we needed it, because we were not planning for the midwife not to
huge
be there.
Surprise.
Exactly. So right after my water broke, I asked him to help me get onto hands and knees, because that's just like instinctively the position I felt like I needed to go to. And I always tell mamas that your body knows what position you take your birth in. In the hospital birth, I don't know if we talked about it last time, but I wanted to give birth on hands and knees or in another position, but my body it didn't feel right that time. So I ended up giving birth in a different position in the hospital because that birth was different. I mean, all the births are different between different mamas and different babies. And
I birthed all 3 of my babies in a different position.
Really? Wow. See, these last 2 were the same, but my first one totally different. That's interesting. It's just all of our births different. Our body knows what we need in that moment. So I had him help me get onto hands and knees. And at first I was like, what do you see? And he's like, I don't see anything. I'm going to go fill up the birth pool. So he's not filling the birth pool until he still had to get the water hose hooked up. We had not hooked that up yet. He's not even starting to fill the birth pool until I'm already on hands and knees. So
Yeah.
he gets the water running and he's running back and forth to the bathroom to get everything hooked up while I'm in the bed, and he'll come check on me every minute or so. And so the first time he looked, he didn't see anything. And then he's still trying to get the water set up. And I'm like, babe, please get in here. I need your help. He was like, I'm trying to get this birth pool set up for you. You really wanted this water birth. And I was like, there's a part in the video. I'm like, babe, we're not having a water birth. This baby is coming.
Men are so funny like that. Like they've got this one thing in their mind that they can do, and this is what they can do, and they know they can do it. And it's just like in their head, and you have to like coax them away from it.
Exactly. He had planned to have that water birth set up for me, and we wanted it, and he was gonna get it for me, but the timing just was not there.
It's okay.
Same thing with my previous home birth. We got the pool a little more full that time, but this time we had like an inch of water.
Yeah.
So not happening. So I called him back. I was like, babe, we're not having a water birth. And I asked him again to see to check. Cause I could feel that pressure. Not really like pushy it, but I could feel that pressure coming down. And I was like, what do you see? And just as nonchalantly as ever, he was like, a head. Like, I was like, if that had been me, I'd have been like screaming, like, I see a head, like the baby's coming out. But he was just so cool and calm about it. It was just such a blessing for sure.
Yeah, seriously.
And so at that point we got the midwife on the phone and had her just there just to coach him.
Just in case.
And she was just as calm as can be. And it was very reassuring to hear her again, like just calmly talking to us. But she just kind of listened and sat back. Like she wasn't being like all up in everything. Cause I mean, that was, my husband knew what to do. I mean, he just had to catch the baby. So,
it's not hard.
Yeah. It's
honestly,
really not.
like it's not hard to catch a baby.
It's really not. I've seen videos where like the husband, they're real slippery, like the mama's standing up, but I was on the bed, like on a soft.
Even if he missed, it was going to be okay.
It was going to be okay. So that wasn't really a fear. So the head was out. I had another contraction, and her head was out, like the crowning, and that would be like the crowning moment. Really wasn't intense. It was just like intense pressure. People are always so afraid of that moment. But I think if you're just breathing and listening to your body and letting those natural contractions take over, it's not as bad as it's made out to be, or at least it hasn't been for me. Like
yes, like you said, if you're able to just listen to your body versus being able to my goodness, versus being told to push.
Yes.
If baby's able to descend slower, it is much easier on the body.
Yes. There was a point where I was telling him to get some warm rags because we had all that planned, and because I knew my midwife did warm compress to prevent tearing during that ring of fire, and he could not find the rags. Like they were in my birth kit, but he could not find them. So we didn't have any of that, and the ring of fire was not that bad. I mean, I had the head was coming out. The next contraction, her head was all the way out. So he just kind of held the head. And then with one more contraction, it's crazy how your body just rotates those shoulders. And she just popped out. So within 3 total contractions, she was out. My body pushed her out instinctively with the fetal ejection reflex. I didn't actually push any. And like you said, when people are coaching you to push, it doesn't flow right with my body. It was just doesn't feel right. If you just let your body do it on its own, or only push if you feel the need to push.
Right.
It's just so much easier and so much easier on your body. And no, I didn't have any tearing. I was on hands and knees. So there was that tricky movement.
Like past the baby, right?
Past the baby. It was crazy. My midwife, we joked about that after, like, she knows kind of to pass it through the legs, and he like passed her over me, and like baby was hung, and I was like, okay, bring her back through.
I noticed that in the birth video when I was watching it. It's really cute. If you guys haven't, definitely check the YouTube link below with Ammie's video, because you can see everything she's talking about. It's pretty much all in the video. It's just a really good video. Plus I love all of the newborn pictures that you put in there and your little blurb at the end. So
thank you. So after she was born, he laid her up on my chest, as we talked about, the past the baby, and she pinked up like almost immediately. It was just beautiful, because that was just a fear of if something was wrong and we didn't have the midwife there. And everything was perfect.
That's the struggle with the accidental unassisted home birth. So with the planned unassisted or planned free birth, or even like planned wild birth, those mamas
Yeah.
have the knowledge of how to do that.
Exactly.
But when you're not planning for that, you often don't have that knowledge because it wasn't in the plan.
Exactly. And we will for the future. I mean, just in case, but it's just beautiful how God works things out like that,
absolutely.
and how your body knows. And it just was an amazing experience. And we didn't do anything until the midwife got there. We just cuddled the baby, and when she got there, she did all the placenta and delivering that, and it was just so beautiful and peaceful. And just, as I always say, home birth is just so,
it's just peaceful and beautiful and awesome anyway. Even with the longest labors, moms who have home births just so quickly. I mean, I had 48 hours of laboring at home, intense labor.
Yeah.
And as soon as that baby was on her chest, she was like, that was the best thing ever.
It is.
Like, I will pick this forever.
Forget everything.
Yep. So before we finish up, obviously Eliza's wanting us to finish up. She's just so sweet. So before we finish up, what's some of your main tips or just little things that you want to say in the case of either planning for an unassisted birth or in the case of a surprise happening?
Well, definitely trusting your body in all cases. I say that all the time, that your body knows exactly what to do, whether you're planning a hospital birth, a birth center birth, a home birth with a midwife, or unassisted without a midwife. Your body will know what to do. And I mean, as far as just like an emergency, I mean, prepare for those things. And we had prepared for things like that, but that is so rare. If you're in a low risk pregnancy, there's really nothing to fear. Our society makes us fear that, but there's truly not a reason to fear that. There are people to help if there are an emergency like that.
But you're right. There's nothing to fear. And that's, again, where trusting your instincts come in.
Exactly. Yes.
Because if you're able to put that fear aside, I truly believe if there's anything that can be done, your body will tell you.
Exactly. Yes. And it'll tell you soon enough so that you can, if something is going wrong, you can get help. I mean,
right.
But I never want to instill that in any mamas, because that is so rare. If you are in a low risk pregnancy and everything has gone smoothly thus far, then there's really no reason to fear. Just trust God, trust your body.
Absolutely.
And that's just how we've approached birth and how it's worked beautifully for us thus far. And it's just so beautiful, home birth. I could talk about it forever.
Yeah. Well, and just, your story is a really good example of why we should educate ourselves and not just rely on other people to do things for us, especially when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to birth. We need to be educated, because you never know when an unassisted birth is going to happen. With mine, I had actually toyed with an unassisted birth because I'm a doula and I knew I have a history of fast labors.
Yeah.
And I hired a midwife for postpartum care, having a feeling, like I just had this feeling she wasn't going to make it. And my birth was much faster than yours. It was like 2.5 hours from no contractions, but a little bit of pink on my toilet paper.
Wow.
To here's my baby.
Baby. Wow. That's incredible.
But it was still a surprise. It wasn't in the plan. And I did have the training. For the most part, I did know what to do. And that makes a huge difference too, just having that education. So I think trust your body, like you said, trust your instincts, trust God, and be educated.
Exactly. Yes.
Is huge.
Exactly. Yes.
So thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me. I love sharing it. Thank you.
Listeners, if you have any questions, reach out to me at contact@thenaturalbirthsite.com. But you can also check out Ammie's social media below. Even if you don't have any questions, go check out our pages. They're great.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Hi, Rachel Manns again. If you want to learn more, please subscribe to and rate this podcast, and head over to thenaturalbirthsite.com to check out our online natural birth education course, birth story blog, YouTube channel, and more.